r/ask Reddit. What's a skill that everyone should have? Spatial awareness. Don't stand in the middle of a sidewalk, right in front of a doorway, or leave your shopping cart blocking an entire aisle. Or at least don't throw a temper tantrum when someone informs you that you're in the way. I feel so bad for that woman's family having to witness that meltdown. Before living in Chicago, I used to try to squeeze by and not disturb the other person. Now I just say beep beep, coming through. You would be surprised how often people jump to get out of the way. Basic first aid. Alongside cooking and basic shelter construction, and you can potentially live off those three things alone. A Red Cross survey showed a staggering 59% of deaths from injuries would have been preventable had first aid been given before the emergency services arrived. So many lives could have saved by knowing just few things. Here are 10 basic first aid procedures. Being able to swim. You don't need to be any good at it, but you should feel safe around bodies of water. I've never tried swimming where I can't touch the ground of a beach or any open water, and when I tried it on a pool like 6 feet and above, I don't float easily, so I'm really scared on thinking about being already in a body of water. You don't have to float. The key to calm in the water is not being afraid for your face ears to go underwater occasionally. As you swim or tread water, little waves will sometimes splash up at you, or you'll bob up and down in the current and your face may go under briefly. That's normal and okay. Your body is naturally buoyant and you'll pop up to the surface again in a second or two. Whereas if you're constantly fighting to stay whole head above the surface at all times, you'll use up a lot more energy and be more stressed. Basic understanding of taxes and financials. Everyone's left speechless. The things we should have, but weren't taught in high school. Knowing when it's better to keep one's mouth shut. Ugh, I'm terrible at this. I always feel like sharing what I know or just breaking the silence. I have the opposite problem. It takes a lot of mental preparation for me to start talking, even if I already know what I'm supposed to say. Learn how to apologize. It's okay to be wrong sometimes, and a gesture to rectify the situation after saying sorry goes a long way. This is important for people who use Reddit. People refuse to accept that they are wrong and just start arguing for no reason. You messed up. Shit happens. Learn from it. Move on. I prefer the double down till I die method. Keeps me from losing face, but also makes me lose friends. Win-win. Cooking. I'll always answer with this. Not even like gourmet skills, but everyone should know how to cook a chicken thigh. Warming up frozen food doesn't count. Edit for the multiple comments from folks that don't eat meat. It doesn't have to be chicken. That's just the first thing I thought of. Substitute whatever food you like. The point is just know how to use a kitchen to cook some food. IDK. I cook a pretty mean microwave lasagna. Learning how to learn. Makes learning other things much easier. How does one learn how to learn? There is a free course on Coursera, and it's worth it. Edit. Here is the link. Learn how to read your paycheck. Understand what taxes are taken out, what insurances are taken out, what you are getting paid for, and keep track of your hours or salary. Make sure you are being paid what you should be. What do you do if you find you're being paid less than you should be, even if it's only $5 to $10 a week? Just tell them small or big business they either don't want to get on trouble themselves, or after the awkwardness you'll be back paid and everything will be back to normal. It's not okay to feel bad for asking what you're meant to get. If parents can teach their kids critical thinking, cooking, basic economy and how to not be an a-hole, they'll do alright. The rest is just nice to have. Man, I suck as a dad. Admitting you suck as a dad is the first step to being a good dad. 23 dysfunctional years later, my dad still thinks he is God's gift to parenting. Never too late. Edit. Sorry, some of y'all got bad dads. Comma. To listen before talking. I hate it when I'm about to explain something but someone interrupts me right before it. Edit. Talking too much is just as bad. Create opportunities for others to respond. It's like they are already thinking of what to say next, instead of listening to you. Most of the time people just wants to be heard. It is not that difficult. Just simply saying yes or I understand is enough to make them say more. It is also okay to just ask instead of trying to mind read. Critical thinking. The ability to critically analyze a situation is imperative for navigating personal and professional relationships. This and self-reflection I'd add. This. If you know people with no self-awareness, you probably have a desire to punch them regularly. Time management edit 1. For few of those who want some tips about it, time management is basically prioritizing your work so that you can make most out of the fixed amount of time you have. Here are a few tips that I follow every night. Create a list of work that needs to be done next day and order them in such a way that most important tasks are done first while maintaining a logical sequence of workflow. At the end of the day, check if you have done important things or not. Try to avoid procrastination. You have to do the work anyway. Doing it in later point in time will only put you in stressful situation. Do some exercise or meditation. Even simply walking can help a lot. If you are unclear about what to do first today, just after waking up do the daily chores and take bath. It will really put you in a relaxed mood so you can think better. Open bracket. It worked for me. Keep around 1 hour for yourself every day to do things that you enjoy. After all, we are humans, not machines. Remember, don't consider time as a resource which gets replenished after 24 hours. It is the only resource that you are dying for. He said on Reddit. Empathy. Rare shit. Please allow me to add the specifics components. Understanding, perspective taking, pragmatic and emotional. Concern, sympathy, compassion, emotion, mirroring. Source. Roughly paraphrased from Batson, a philosopher of empathy. These things we do are distinct enough that the normal usage of the word empathy does not have anything close to a one-to-one connection with our mental function. Its vagueness is very problematic. Laundry. You just put everything in on cold, throw a Tide Pod in there, and push the button. That's it, right? That's how I do it. Sure, I know what should go on warm, but sorting it out is more trouble than it's worth when cold is just as good. The only exception is towels, which I wash and dry on hot. How to Google something. Could you give a quick rundown on a better way to Google? This sounds useful. How to Google isn't a science. It's an art. You can't explain the method, because it's about understanding humanity through the eyes of an algorithm. Communication skills. It's not possible without practice, but people don't want to practice because of people who complains about the lack of skill people have. Communication skills can be practiced simply by having conversations. Even if you're really awkward and weird, there's probably at least someone who will hold a conversation with you. And it's kind of like doing a sport. Not everyone is good at it, and if you have something like anxiety or asthma in sports case, then it's harder for you than it is for others, but not impossible. Chewing with a closed mouth. Doing taxes. Really should be a class for it in college or even high school. My school has this. We had to fill out a tax form, write checks, all sorts of stuff like that. Yep, we did things like this. In 5th grade, Ryan was just concerned about how much money they were gonna make at Biztown and who could buy the most Doritos. Changing a flat tire on your car and knowing how to jump a dead battery. I have to 100% agree with this. I'm a mechanic by trade. The number of people that couldn't even point out where their spare tire tools even are is scary. I have a 2-year-old son, and eventually before he's allowed to drive he's going to demonstrate that he can change a tire. He absolutely doesn't need to know how to fix cars like I do. But I'll be damned if I'm being woken up in the middle of the night or called out of work cause he's got a flat tire. I had to do this a few winters ago. It was around 2 AM. Super cold, freezing rain, shitty roads, and my tire blew. I didn't know how to change it. Called my dad and he found me. He popped the trunk where the spare and tools were and pulled out the jumper cables and beat the ever-living shit out of me on the side of the road. Then he showed me how to change a tire. So that's something I can do on my own now. Sewing. Especially if you buy cheap clothes on the internet. Just being able to reattach buttons keeps you from throwing a shirt out when a few fall off. But I've even gone as far as to buy a sewing machine so I can tailor my own clothes to fit me, since slim fit shirts are hard to come by, and the ones I do find lack proper shoulder width. This has made owning clothing so much easier and less of a pain in the ass to try to buy. To use a ducking turn signal. Sewing and basic cooking. How to perform the Heimlich maneuver on yourself. Edit. Here's a link to instructions on how to do it. Stay safe everyone. https://wikihau.com. Perform the Heimlich maneuver on yourself. Scientific literacy. How many problems could have been solved if people just knew what they were talking about? Being able to read body language. Learns to read body language. If someone has their arms crossed, it means they are not interested in what you're saying. Go to interview and both managers are sitting with their arms folded before I start talking. Well, duck. See, my problem is that crossing my arms is just the most comfortable way to have them and has no bearing on whether or not I care about what you have to say. Otherwise I have no idea what to do with my hands. Reading. Budgeting. Super critical. Actually used in much of corporate world too. At least one of the basic survival skills. First aid, starting and tending to a fire, foraging, hunting, finding and purifying water. Basic gun safety. No firearm discharge should be an accident. For me, Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts were treasure troves of important life skills. I find people who can't tie knots, swim, cook a meal over an open fire, perform basic first aid, and I realize what a great opportunity that organization was for me growing up. Common sense, but I could be asking for too much. Not having an opinion on something they know nothing about. Everyone should be able to listen to criticism and take useful bits and apply it to their lives, even if the criticism is mean. Respect without a doubt. Swimming. Thinking under pressure. Typing. Everyone using a computer should know how to type on a keyboard without looking at the keys. To take care of themselves before reproducing. Changing a tire, cleaning, eating healthy and nutrition, accepting that you are wrong and it's okay to be wrong. Common sense. The rules of driving, writing a check, using the computer, knowing how to look stuff up online, reading a map, basic house repair and maintenance, doing research, knowing how to disagree without resorting to name calling and insults. Self-awareness. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.